Iran just put a ballistic missile into the core of Israel's northern war machine, not a border outpost, not a supply depot, the actual command headquarters responsible for directing operations across the entire northern front, the facility that coordinates troop rotations, artillery strikes, and defensive positioning against Hezbollah. And it didn't happen in isolation, it happened as part of Wave 80. That number alone tells you this is not a one-off event. By the time you understand what unfolded, what systems were used, and what it means moving forward, it becomes clear that the narrative around Iran's capabilities is not just incomplete, it's dangerously misleading. Let's be precise about the target. The strike was reported against the Northern Command headquarters located in Safet. In military terms, a command headquarters is not just another building, it is the central nervous system of an entire operational theater. Every order that moves a combat unit, every directive that coordinates artillery, every signal connecting forces along the Lebanese border flows through that hub. When it is described as the center responsible for directing forces across Israel's northern border, that is not exaggeration, it is a technical description of its role, and that is what was hit. At the same time, additional strikes were reported in multiple locations, Tel Aviv, Beersheba, and Kiryat Shmona. There were also claims that American-linked facilities in the region were targeted during the same coordinated barrage. Whether all of those claims hold up under verification or not, what is clear is that this was not symbolic. It was not a warning shot, it was a coordinated, multi-directional strike aimed at strategic infrastructure. And here is where the contradiction begins to emerge. While this level of coordination was unfolding, official statements continued to suggest that Iran's offensive capabilities had been significantly degraded. That claim becomes harder to reconcile when you look at the scale and consistency of what is actually happening. To understand why this matters, you need to understand the broader context of the Northern Front. Israel has been actively engaged in operations along the Lebanese border, including expanded ground activity in southern Lebanon. These operations are coordinated through the same command structure that was reportedly targeted. Multiple divisions operate under its authority, with armored units positioned across the Golan Heights and defensive forces stationed along the border. Statements from Israeli leadership have made it clear that the objective goes beyond short-term defense. There has been open discussion of maintaining a security zone extending northward, potentially reshaping the long-term boundary dynamics in that region. From a military perspective, that kind of language signals sustained operational intent, not temporary positioning. And now that command structure has come under direct missile fire. At the same time, the conflict is no longer confined to a single front. Pressure is coming from multiple directions. Hezbollah activity continues from the north, tensions remain active in the south, and now missile launches from Iran add a third axis, multiple fronts, one command system coordinating them. That alone changes the pressure dynamics. But the deeper issue is not just where the missiles landed, it's what those missiles represent, because not all missiles are the same. One of the systems reportedly involved is a solid fuel ballistic missile platform. Solid fuel is a critical factor because it eliminates long preparation times. Unlike older liquid fuel systems that require visible fueling processes, solid fuel missiles can be launched quickly with minimal warning. That reduces detection windows and limits opportunities for preemptive strikes. From a technical standpoint, these missiles follow a ballistic trajectory, exiting the atmosphere and re-entering at extremely high speeds. That re-entry phase is where interception becomes most difficult. The time window for defense systems to react is incredibly short, often measured in seconds. Another system in discussion is a heavier missile platform capable of carrying significantly larger payloads. What sets it apart is not just its size, but its guidance system. Mid-course correction allows the missile to adjust its trajectory outside the atmosphere, making it resistant to certain types of electronic interference. By the time it begins its final descent, its path is already locked in. Now add another layer: payload configuration. High-altitude interceptors are designed to neutralize missiles before they reach the point of dispersion, but if interception occurs too late after the warhead has already separated, the situation changes completely. The smaller submunitions continue independently, and most defense systems are not designed to handle that volume of simultaneous threats at lower altitudes. Short-range defense systems, on the other hand, are optimized for different types of threats: rockets, artillery, and limited incoming targets. They are not built to track and intercept dozens of fast-falling objects spread across a wide area in real time. The result is a form of saturation, not necessarily overwhelming in a single moment, but forcing defensive systems into difficult choices. Resource allocation becomes critical. Interceptors are finite. Engagement decisions must be prioritized, and that leads to something rarely discussed openly: defensive triage. When faced with multiple incoming threats, systems may prioritize certain targets over others based on trajectory, potential impact zone, and available resources. That means not every incoming object is engaged. This is not failure, it is a function of system design under pressure. Now consider the scale of the campaign itself. Reports indicate sustained waves of missile activity over an extended period, not a single launch, not a brief exchange, but repeated operations over days and weeks. That level of consistency suggests not a depleted force, but an active and adaptable one. There has also been a noticeable shift in the types of systems being used. Increasing reliance on mobile, solid fuel platforms points to a strategic adjustment favoring systems that are harder to detect, quicker to deploy, and more difficult to target before launch. From an operational standpoint, that is a significant evolution. It reflects not just capability, but planning. And when you look at the numbers involved both in terms of launches and interceptions, you start to see another dimension of the conflict. Interception rates are often cited as a measure of success, and high interception rates do indicate effective defense, but they do not tell the whole story, because even a small percentage of successful impacts can have significant consequences when the incoming systems are high-impact weapons. And beyond that, there is the question of cost. Missile defense is not just a technical challenge, it is an economic one. Each interceptor has a cost, each launch has a cost, and those costs are not equal. Offensive systems can be produced at lower cost compared to the advanced interceptors required to stop them. Over time, that creates an imbalance. Sustained operations begin to strain supply chains, production capacity, and budgets. This is where conflicts extend beyond the battlefield, because wars are not only fought with weapons, they are sustained through logistics, manufacturing, and economics. If one side can maintain a steady rate of offensive output while forcing the other side to expend higher-cost defensive resources, the long-term dynamics begin to shift. And this is happening alongside broader global effects. Energy markets react to instability in critical regions, shipping routes become uncertain, insurance costs rise, supply chains adjust, the impact spreads far beyond the immediate of conflict. What begins as a military exchange evolves into an economic ripple that affects multiple sectors: energy, transportation, agriculture, and beyond. This is why events like this cannot be viewed in isolation. They are part of a larger system, a system where military actions, economic pressures, and political decisions are all interconnected. And within that system, perception plays a powerful role. Official narratives emphasize stability, control, and effectiveness. Unofficial narratives highlight vulnerabilities, uncertainties, and risks. The truth often exists somewhere between those extremes, but what is undeniable is that the situation is evolving rapidly, and each new development adds another layer of complexity. The introduction of new weapon systems, the adaptation of tactics, the sustained pace of operations, all of these factors point to a conflict that is not static but dynamic. A conflict where both sides are learning, adjusting, and responding in real time, and where assumptions made at the beginning may no longer hold. Wave 80 is not just a number, it is a signal that the campaign is ongoing, that capacity remains, that strategies are being executed over time, not in isolated bursts, and that the situation is far from resolved, because in the end, the most important question is not what has already happened, it's what comes next. How long can this pace be sustained? How will defensive systems adapt? How will supply chains respond? And how will decision makers interpret a situation where the line between control and escalation becomes increasingly difficult to define? Those are the questions that matter now, and the answers to those questions will shape everything that follows.